I'm Tim Casey. I'm a survivor of 9/11, and I'm in mourning with the 22nd anniversary now. I had just moved to New York from California. I'd been in California for about 24 years. I'm originally from Massachusetts. Um, and I got to New York about 6 months before 9/11, and I was living in an apartment with some other people just temporarily till I got settled. And on the morning of 9/11, it was a beautiful day. So I decided to work out in the gym before I went over. I was working at 110 Wall Street. So before I went over to Wall Street to go to work, I decided to work out, which put me a little bit late. And I would take the PATH train or a ferry across from Jersey City. I had an apartment that my bedroom actually overlooked the World Trade Center because we were right on the river there. And that morning, after I worked out, I went to the Journal Square and went down in the PATH station. And as I was getting on the train, it was there was a policeman there, and he was standing there talking into his walkie-talkie, or his radio rather. And he was agitated, and he said, "Do you want me to come over? Do you want me to come over?" And just as the doors were closing, he jumped through the doors and almost fell on the floor. And that just set me off a little bit. Something didn't seem right that day. And we ride across under the river, and the PATH train would come up in about 5 stories underground under the World Trade Center. And when the doors opened, I just held back because the first thing I recognized was the smell of diesel fuel. My thought was, that's really weird. Some idiot drove a diesel locomotive through a subway station. And so I hung back. I let everyone get off the train first. I came up last. And as I'm going up the escalators, so it's several escalators to get up to the ground level, I noticed a Subway pizza place where the strobe light was going off. And I said, "Oh, okay. There's no one here. It seems like they've evacuated. Must be there was a fire in the pizza place." And then when I got up to the mall level, there were just no people. That at that hour of the day, there would be literally thousands of people shoulder to shoulder, jostling to get through and go to work. And I would say there was only a couple 300. And the bottom level of the World Trade Centers was a mall, for people that don't know that. And what I would do is walk from one tower diagonally across to the other tower because they were connected. So I'd walk the whole length of the mall. And as I started walking, I noticed women's shoes had been kicked off, and literally they'd run out of their shoes. And I said, "This is really bad," because
Yeah.
women never leave their shoes behind. So the next thing I noticed is backpacks have been thrown against the wall, and these are the type of backpacks you would carry a computer in. So, and it was just like mine. I recognized this is really bad because now people are throwing computers away. Something happened here. There was absolutely no indication of uh, fire or anything else. There were no sirens. There were no authorities, telling us what to do. It was a matter of people were just sort of jostling along. At that time, most people, I guess, had evacuated,
Mhm.
and it was just the people coming in off the train and whatnot. So I continued walking. I walked the length of both buildings, and then as I was stepping up the last set of steps to get up to the ground level, there was a guy standing there holding the door, screaming, "Get out! Get out! There's a terrorist attack!" And I'd just gotten there, and I looked at him and I said, "This is New York. He must be delusional." And as I stepped outside, paper was coming down like snowflakes that was on fire. And that's when I realized, yeah, there's really something going on here. So I looked up and noticed this the it was the 94th floor or something, was all black. And I thought to myself, that's really terrible. It's going to be a real sore spot on the skyline with all those windows that have been blacked out. And it didn't occur to me, I thought it would just, okay, so a bomb went off or something. It wasn't that significant to me at the moment. But I was curious what was going on. I'm not normally someone to spend a lot of time gawking, but I couldn't help it. I had to walk around the building a little bit instead of going directly out to Wall Street. And I was standing on the steps of Century 21 when the second plane came through the building. I'd been looking up, and just as I looked down, I felt basically an infrared flash. It was the heat from the explosion. And when I looked back up, there was a fireball over my head. And coming out of the fireball were all these matchsticks, it looked like. And I realized, no, they're not matchsticks. Those are girders. That's the building being blown apart. And at that point, I started running. And I
Wow.
literally ran across the island of Manhattan, over to 110 Wall Street, which was at the other side, right near the water. And at that time, I took cover with my coworkers. And I didn't see the plane because the plane came from the west on the
Mm.
second plane that hit. So I thought it was another bomb, and was even arguing with my coworkers. They said, "No, no, the radio said it's a plane or whatever." So um, turns out they all live more or less either uptown or across in the Brooklyn Bridge, and within the hour, they all evacuated and started walking uptown or walking across the Brooklyn Bridge. I had to get back to New Jersey, so I hung out for quite a while by myself there, and I would say about an hour or so later, um, it, I was sitting there, and all of a sudden, I'd lived in California, so I was very familiar with earthquakes, and
Hmm.
I felt an earthquake. It was like a 2.5 or something earthquake. It wasn't significant, but it was enough that I recognized it. And at that point, I ran over to the corner office where my boss was, where his office was, and I just watched this wall of this cloud come down like a um, what I thought about was a nuclear winter, because it was
Hmm.
that gray cloud. And as it came down Wall Street, I thought to myself that they'd actually blown up the stock exchange because it was at the end of the street.
Hmm.
I thought we were totally under attack at that point. And as it came down, it literally blocked out the Chase Manhattan sign. This 20-foot high sign on the other side of the street. I couldn't read it any longer. It was that dark. So I hung out there a bit longer trying to figure out what was going on, because I was at least indoors. And then I watched, and I noticed that we could see the ferry dock from our side. And I noticed there were people going down there and getting on ferries and getting out of there. And I figured, well, okay, I have tickets for the other side. I'll go down and see if they'll take my ticket here. Sorry, it's a bit emotional.
No, it's okay.
And I can remember walking down the gangplank and holding the ticket up and asking them, "Will you accept my ticket for the World Trade Center side?" And they just said, "Get on." And of course, in retrospect, that was the largest sea lift that's ever taken place. It was larger than the one in Dunkirk during World War II, when they evacuated um, the Allies from Dunkirk. So
Wow.
um, it was, and the irony of it was, is that day I went across to just below the Liberty State Park and was dropped off there at it's a condo complex. I don't remember the name of it, but I walked up the street and there was a light rail there. I got on the light rail, and um, within a couple minutes, I was back literally in front of my building. So it was the fastest commute I'd ever had from my office. So there's always this irony in these tragedies. So
Yeah. And then, so did you obviously not go back to work for a while? Like, what was the timeline after that?
I didn't go back to work till Thursday, and we had an office up in Midtown or whatever. And I had the only way I get there then was to again take the PATH train, but I had to take it out of it wasn't out of Journal Square. I forget the other one. Anyways, I had a real issue with that. I literally walked around for an hour outside the station before I could go back underground.
I mean, that's pretty soon after that you
It
went back.
was, it
Were
was, yeah.
were you apprehensive?
I was crying. I was I mean, I was very emotional, yeah.
And did everyone go back, or, like, only certain people went back? What was, like,
Well, our
the
whole office did, yeah.
wow.
They ended up taking over the 110 Wall Street office. The military took we were a military company. It was SAIC. We were a big defense contractor. So the team that actually was running the robots that went in and looked for survivors and whatnot, set up camp in our office at 110 Wall Street, and we didn't go back there for a couple months, anyways. 3 months, I think it was.
Wow. And then I know
Um,
you mentioned just, walking around for a while that first day. I'm curious, what was your mental health like following that first day back?
I was a basket case. I had survivor's guilt. I have a mild case of PTSD to this day, and I've had other traumas in my life. So, this was just another trigger. I ended up going through a full year of counseling that I was in such a fog that it wasn't until years later that I realized I never got a bill from the counselors.
Oh,
It was
wow.
picked up by them applying to the World Trade Center funds, but it literally was literally, it was 3 or 4 years later that I realized, my God, I never paid for weekly counseling for a year.
How did that happen if you didn't apply for
They
the
applied
fund?
on in under my name.
Oh,
They
wow,
got
that's so
paid directly from the World Trade Center. Yeah, there was quite a bit of money set aside right away. Well, people donated, and there was a fund
mhm.
put up for that.
Yeah, and then you and I wanna dive into that deeper as much as you wanna share, but you ended up working with John Field. I see your FealGood Foundation
Right,
shirt, who has been on the podcast and such an important part of the
right.
community, as you know. How did you get involved in that, and what was that experience like for you?
Okay. In October of 2018, well, actually 6 months before that, I had an incident at a gym where I had a racing heart, so I went in and I had a case of tachycardia, I guess it was. And I was freaked out over that. And they decided to do a CAT scan, and they did a CAT scan of my chest, and they said, "Your heart's fine. Don't worry about it. But we see a nodule in your lung. Come back in 6 months, and we want to check that." So um, I went back. They did another CAT scan in 6 months, and they said, "Oh, it's grown." So they wanted to do a biopsy, and I went round and round with family and doctors and so on. And at that time I was actually working in the healthcare industry, so I had professionals that I could talk to, and it was a split decision, and I decided to go ahead and do the biopsy. So I went in for a biopsy, and they ended up removing my they did a lobectomy and removed
Mm,
my left upper lobe because it was cancerous.
wow.
So, it was an arthroscopic surgery. To this date, I just had a CAT scan a couple weeks ago, and I'm still clean. I haven't had any remission,
That's amazing.
yeah, I think it's amazing too. I never had to do any chemotherapy. They removed the lung, and they removed 22 lymph nodes, and that seemed to have gotten it.
And was that covered under the
Okay, so this is the background to how I got to know John Field.
mm,
So at that time, I realized that I was eligible to apply for the Victims Compensation Fund. But it was also at that time that I heard from the lawyers that the fund was actually running out of money, and they were saying you probably only get 50 or 70 to 50% of what everybody else has been getting, because they're going to scale it back.
oh,
And I heard about this group that was actually going to lobby Congress, and I joined that group. And I said, first of all, I was living down in Annapolis, so I was close to Washington D.C. And I said, well, I'm right here. I'm more than happy to take a day off from work and go over and lobby Congress or do whatever I can. Because first of all, it was in my best interest, but I actually had the survivor's guilt. So
and how was that experience working with John Field and everyone down there?
there is such a camaraderie among those of us that went. I'm still very close to several of them. One of which I just lost recently,
I'm sorry.
Al Williams, and I've been to a couple of the funerals. I made 5 trips now into Washington to lobbying for the bill. One of which was to the White House for the actual signing in the Rose Garden, but went 3 times to Congress lobbying for the bill, and then just recently, a few weeks ago, went back because again, the it's not the victims' compensation bill, but the World Trade Center healthcare bill that's running out of money, and um, we went down and again lobbied for them to increase the funding. It doesn't run out till the end of 2025, I believe. But
It's coming up quick.
yeah, but they've introduced a bill to extend that.
And so, is there anything that people can do to help get that passed, or is that
Yes,
something that, yeah.
lobby your representatives. Senator Gillibrand is one of the key sponsors of it.
Hmm.
But what they need to pass a bill is the support of other representatives in Congress. So if people can write to their congressperson and say that they think this should be supported, then that would be a good thing.
Okay, so you went down with Feel and the team, and then what happened next?
Well, after the bill got passed, my life continued on as it had been. I mean, the amazing thing was after the operation, within a week, I was actually working from home. I mean, it was
Yeah,
an amazing, the amazing thing about modern science now. I never would have thought that, but literally within a week, I was actually working full time.
that's
Um,
amazing.
and my background is a degree in electrical engineering, but I've done everything from work in the defense industry to finished up in healthcare. I retired a couple of years ago from the pharmaceutical industry, and my role became early on project management. So I was
Mm.
basically a manager of people and projects, and have developed software to help drug discovery,
Wow,
um, to building submersible vehicles for the ocean.
that's really awesome. And so, luckily, your health is still in good standing. And how about your mental health? Have you kind of worked through the things that you were facing right after, or how has that been for you?
Um, I would say I'm 99% today, but going off on a tangent here, I had been in a shipwreck back in 1975 in which we lost 3 people, and I never dealt with that. And what happened? The reason I went through all that counseling was because the trauma of 9/11 brought up um, the survivor's guilt from that accident as well,
Hmm.
and I didn't talk about that for decades, literally. It was just something I couldn't talk about, couldn't deal with. I have no problem talking about it today, although I get a little emotional. But it was a matter of we were taking a boat to we're planning to take a boat to Florida over the Christmas holidays from New Hampshire. We were out December 20th, practicing navigation and man overboard drills and so on to learn to operate as a team. And we got caught in basically the perfect storm in 1975. And we rode the storm out for 18 hours. We finally were blown from Portsmouth back down to Gloucester, Massachusetts. Then we were shipwrecked on a beach in Gloucester, Massachusetts.
Wow.
And 3 of us made it. 3 of us didn't. I suffered severe hypothermia, so that trauma was pretty significant. One again, irony. One of the things that did raise its head, and I still don't understand it to this day, is I couldn't file my taxes for 4 years. I have no
Really?
idea why I couldn't file my taxes, but I let taxes go for 4 years.
Oh, wow.
And in fact, you know, my wife wouldn't marry me until I finished the taxes. So we were dating for 5 years at that point.
It's a fair ask.
Yeah. And the irony there is that they actually owed me money. I didn't owe them money. I just couldn't sit down and put numbers together in my head.
Yeah, and that's fair. I mean, it's so great to hear that you feel like you're 99% which is incredible. Not many people can say that. Um, but I have 3 questions for you at the end of this, which are supposed to be more uplifting because obviously
Yeah,
this can get a little heavy.
yeah.
But is there anything you wanna talk about that we haven't covered? Did you wanna dive into anything deeper?
I guess the experience of lobbying Congress is something that I think people should know about.
Mhm.
You know, I'm a nobody, but yet I feel like I was able to go into Congress with a group and actually affect change. The bill we
Mhm.
passed was a bill that had virtually 100% um, of Congress voting for it. I think what 6, 7 people didn't vote for it, and it was a standalone bill, which almost never ever happens in Congress. They always have some earmark, they're putting some pet project with it. Our bill went through without any earmarks, and that was significant. And I think it was due to the perseverance of our group. And I really think John Feel is a tremendous leader. I mean, a little bit abrasive, but he was a tremendous leader. I have tremendous respect for him.
That's why he gets stuff done, the abrasiveness.
It's true.
Um, okay, amazing. I mean, I think that's really good information for people to know that anyone can do that and anyone
Yeah,
can facilitate change because there's a lot of change that still needs to happen.
yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. And so I'm gonna go into this fun round or supposed to be fun round.
Okay.
The first question is, what's the most beautiful thing you've learned doing this work and being a part of the 9/11 community?
Um, it's probably a two-pronged thing. One, the camaraderie that we developed as a team, as a Feel Good Foundation, and two, the fact that you can actually affect change. That one person actually can have a big influence on the world if you put yourself to it.
Mhm. I love that. Okay, number 2. What is giving you the most energy right now in your life, in your career, anything?
Since retirement, just living. You know, I'm fortunate in that um, I'm not struggling financially, um, and I've been able to do things in my retirement that I wanted to. One of the things I did was to get my master's certificate as a captain. I've got a 25-ton master's license from the Coast
Wow.
Guard. I'm a big sailor, but I mean, not that I'll ever use it. It was just on my bucket list. So there's that. We're doing a tremendous amount of traveling. I think that that's the big thing right now.
I love that. That's amazing. I'm jealous you're traveling. Are you going nationally, internationally? Where are you headed?
Well, we're leaving on the 25th for Barcelona to watch the America's Cup.
Oh,
Yeah,
amazing. I haven't been to Barcelona, but I've heard it's like has to be on your list to go.
I was there 40 years ago, I think it was.
Wow.
It was great. But we're going specifically to because the America's Cup is going on there, and we're big sailors. So
Well, I can't wait to hear how it goes. Okay, last one. What's something exciting besides Barcelona that you have planned this year?
oh, besides Barcelona, as of last weekend, I think we've decided we're going to buy a new boat.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah,
What kind of boat?
sailboat.
Okay, those are so fun.
Yeah, we have one right now that we'll sell and then get something newer. I mean, it's um, something that I don't have to do as much maintenance on. Hopefully.
I love that. And I mean, you're the perfect guy to sail it. Well, thank you again so much for coming on.
Well, thank you for letting me share my story.